Alex Traiman. He's the CEO and Jerusalem Bureau Chief of the Jewish News Syndicate. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Christy, thanks for having me.
The first question I want to ask you is in relation to the ceasefire talks. I do want to talk strategy because we were not able to reach a deal this past weekend. As these talks continue, is there going to be a change in strategy? How are people going to approach this?
Well, I don't know that there's going to be a change in strategy, and I don't know that we didn't just simply not reach a deal over the last weekend. There hasn't really been a deal in many months since Israel was able to get back 105 of its hostages in a release deal, and I'm not sure what the incentive is for Hamas to release the hostages. They want to drag out this war as long as possible. That's their modus operandi. That's their reason, their essence for being right now is to wage war against the state of Israel. So if they release the hostages and get a ceasefire, then they're going to be faced with cleaning up the mess that they've made in the Gaza Strip. And so I don't really see there being a hostage release anytime soon. Rather, we're probably going to see more hostage rescues like the one we saw yesterday.
What is holding this up? I guess my question being, what do both these leaders want, Netanyahu and Sinwar?
Well, I mean, for Netanyahu, obviously he wants the hostages back, but this is the reason why they were taken to begin with, is to hold not just the hostages, but the entire Israeli public hostage. And Hamas is looking for, the time and space to get out of the war at their choosing. So they have no real incentive right now, I believe, to release the hostages from their strategic perspective. But Israel's not going to give in. They're not going to just let Hamas off scot-free at this point to get the hostages back. Israel wants to make sure that Hamas is removed completely as a military force and a political force. They want to make sure that they're controlling the Philadelphia corridor, which is the border between Egypt and Gaza, in which tons of weapons and rockets have been smuggled, and there have been many tunnels uncovered going back and forth between Gaza enclave and in Egypt. And they also want to make sure that Hamas terrorists don't move back into northern sections of the Gaza Strip, where they would be able to threaten Israelis living near that border, both with cross-border raids and with rockets.
You did mention Egypt, and I do want to speak about that. In terms of external pressure, right? Qatar and Egypt have been mediators during these talks. What influence could they have on reaching a deal?
Well, as much as they're so-called mediators, they're also really representatives of Hamas. The Hamas leadership has been inside Qatar, for the last many years, including Khalid Mashal and Ismail Haniyeh, who was killed on a visit to Tehran about a month ago. Egypt was supposed to be an honest broker between Israel and Gaza, but what we saw is the uncovering of more than 50 tunnels moving back and forth from Gaza into Egypt. One of those tunnels, which was wide enough for 2 trucks to go through simultaneously, went directly under an Egyptian military base. So it's becoming more and more clear that Egypt was aware of the tunnels and therefore has not been an honest broker in the negotiations, rather has been aiding Hamas throughout the process.
We did want to ask about the hostage who was found alone underground on Tuesday after 326 days of captivity in Gaza. Israeli Defense Minister Gallant said the rescue is part of the Army's, quote, daring and courageous activities conducted deep inside the Gaza Strip. The military has said it has applied lessons learned during previous operations while rescuing him. What are those lessons learned that they're referring to? And can we continue maybe to see these operations going further now that we have seen a successful rescue of a hostage?
Yeah, this isn't the first successful rescue, but it's the first successful rescue inside a tunnel. And as the war progresses, the Israeli intelligence gets much, much stronger. With each arrest that they've made of Palestinian terrorists inside the Strip, they get more and more information. They understand the tunnel network a lot better. They understand how to go into the tunnels that may be booby-trapped or where they may find Hamas terrorists hiding in wait for them. So there's been a lot of different lessons learned and a lot more intelligence. And it's believed that the IDF does know where a lot of the terrorists at this point that remain alive are being held. So as they get the opportunity and the conditions are correct, they're moving in carefully to be able to extract terrorists, hostages rather.
And I know you said that you don't think that this will happen anytime soon, but how difficult is it? Because Netanyahu and Sinwar need to agree to this and to have a Hamas leader who has to kind of sign off on this. How difficult is that going to be to get him to get on board?
Well, I think Netanyahu would be willing to get the hostages back. And that's why Israel continues to send negotiating teams in good faith to the hostage negotiations. The United States has said many times that they understand that Israel has accepted terms for a hostage release, but Hamas did not officially send representatives to the last hostage negotiations. They've been rejecting every single proposal that's come forward, except for a proposal that they put forward that they said that they accepted. But they're even refusing to provide lists of living hostages inside Gaza right now, leading many to believe that many of those hostages, in fact, are not alive at all. So it's you're dealing with the terror organization that took the hostages to begin with, to as part of a psychological warfare game. Against the state of Israel, and they'll release the hostages when they're ready, unless there's some sort of overwhelming force that changes their considerations.
Alex, we so appreciate you coming on here to give your insight. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to the conversation?
Well, I think it's important to note that Israel's been operating in Gaza. You mentioned earlier that there's been raids inside Judea and Samaria, which you call the occupied West Bank. And Israel today also has been firing inside Lebanon, as well as inside Syria, on the Syrian side of the Lebanese border. So this is really, it's a seven-front war by all of Iran's proxy organizations against the state of Israel. And as the war progresses, even though it's taken long, they've been very, very methodical and diligent, learned a lot since the beginning of the war, been very efficient, very effective, and they're definitely demonstrating at this point their military superiority over all of their enemies.
Alex Traiman, so appreciate you being here on Live Now from Fox. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
We are going to step away for a quick 2-minute break.